Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. What up? What up? It's the AGM podcast once again, episode 3, man. Here with my wonderful co-host, my boy Dorian, aka Huso, and our beautiful queen Jhene Captivates.
Yeah.
My guy Dre behind the camera lens, man with the plan.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, we got a lot to get into today, man. But just first, want to thank y'all for tuning in and the feedback. Continue to send it in.
Yes.
Instagram is the AGM podcast. Our email allgrindmedia21@gmail.com. So just continue to send us love, man, and let's continue to push forth. We're gonna start with basically where we left off last time. We do officially have a projected presidential winner now, Mr. Joe Biden. What I want to ask centered around that is, what the hell am I missing? Because I made a comment the other day on social media basically calling out his racism and many of the comments that he's made over the years against African Americans. And apparently I'm the crazy one, like from family members to friends, all of that. Like I had to take all the smoke, and I thought it was maybe more, I don't know, I thought more people knew about it than I guess I thought. So, I want to ask my co-host's opinion on this. Is it something I'm missing? Is Biden like who people think he is, or like? I'll start with
it's just that Biden represents, like, there's a meme going around where people was like, now we can get back to classic racism or traditional
I've
racism.
seen that.
And that's what he represents for a lot of black people, which is like Donald Trump he represents like unbridled racism, which is more like the racism that was like in the 60s and prior, where white people just told you like, get out of my way, nigga, like just to your face.
Right.
And all that stuff, tiki torches, basically represent burning crosses and that type of shit. So with Joe Biden, even though he has been a part of the crime bill and he's on record as saying like a bunch of like racist shit. Yeah, and then especially for like older generations, like really I guess any black baby boomer.
Right.
So I use my mom as an example. My grandma, anybody like I feel like in their 50s maybe and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
For them, Trump was like the boogeyman, low key.
Right.
Just the ultimate racist. When it came down to this election and you talked to him about it, it was like, we gotta get him out. We gotta get him out.
Regardless of who he's running.
Regardless of who it is, like we gotta pick the lesser of two.
The devil himself.
Right, exactly.
Trump gotta go there.
Yeah, to them, Trump is like the manifestation of just all of America's racism.
Right.
When if we look at their background, Trump ain't enacted no racist policies, especially in comparison to Joe Biden. So that's what I feel like everybody's just kind of like having a Wizard of Oz moment where like the Wicked Witch is dead, something like that, and like Joe Biden is somehow Dorothy or something stupid. I don't know.
What you think it is, or what's your take on it?
I mean,
Do you
honestly,
agree with those people who flame me?
I don't. I mean, I feel like I probably have mentioned in the last episode, but also like Dorian said, like it's the lesser of two evils. That's been something that's been a running theme within the last 4 years, or even within this election, is that lesser of two evils. Gotta get this dude out, but we know that this dude we're putting in isn't the best.
Right.
Ooh, he has a black vice president, which is amazing. Kamala, love it.
And that's next.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So I'm gonna hold off my comments on her because I'll hold off my comments on her. But whatever the case may be, I think it's a lesser of two evils kind of situation. Ultimately, Joe Biden, I've seen some questionable things, whether it's touching young people inappropriately or making people uncomfortable. I've seen a lot of questionable things, so I'm not going to say that I'm for Joe Biden particularly. I feel like, absolutely, we need to get Trump out. And I can see the viewpoint and the logic behind the black people who are baby boomers and stuff like Dorian mentioned that are just like, we need to get him out. It doesn't matter who's next, because that's the truth. Like, we need to get past this, sure. But ultimately, is Joe Biden going to do anything too different for us? Not particularly sure. And ultimately, I'm not going to believe it until Trump's out the White House. I don't care. Like, he's going to leave kicking and screaming. I'm not going to believe until Inauguration Day Joe Biden's in the White House and Trump is officially out, because he's going to claim that there was rigged elections.
He already got lawsuits.
Absolutely. He's going to have plenty of lawsuits. Like, it's going to be ridiculous. So good luck for this. I haven't been on the bandwagon with the whole, oh yeah, we got a new president. Fuck all that. I won't believe it till I see it.
Ready,
no, I won't believe it till I see it. Like, I'm not going to believe it till I see it. Period. Like, he's not going to leave single-handedly. Like, he's going to kick and scream and act like a kid.
So from what it sounds like, it just sounds like black people would rather be... they would rather feel comfortable with your bigotry. Like, you know, as long as you allow them to feel good and, you know, you're not, like, I don't know, because me personally, like, when it comes to people who display bigotry, I would rather see it, you know, like, close and personal. Like, I would rather see you with the MAGA hats or, you know, whatever, or the Confederate flag, like, because you're showing me openly, you know what I mean? All right, like, I keep my distance. I know what type of time you on. Versus the, you know, I don't know, day-to-day manager at Ross, you know what I mean, that might have some bigotry towards you and implement that to not give you a job, but they didn't come out and say, like, oh, I'm not racist. Like, so I actually think that's more dangerous in a way when you're dealing with somebody like that.
I definitely agree. However, I can definitely see the black culture being okay with the complacency. If it's not overt, then it is what it is. At least he's like faking it till he make it. But think about it. Our culture is all about flexing, facades, portraying one thing but living another. That's a running theme, and I know that's controversial as hell. But ultimately, that's the truth of the matter. Like, we're all about flexing. We're all about making it seem like things are better than what they are. Whether it's our personal situation, whether it's our financial situation, whether it's our family situation, we gonna put on a facade. And I feel like that's what Joe Biden's doing and has been doing. And that's what people are upset about, because they're like, oh, well, he's putting on the facade. Think about it, though. Our culture's all about it. Call a spade, and let's not call the kettle black, because ultimately it is what it is. Like, he's doing the same thing and implementing, or if you want to throw the word out there, appropriating certain practices that we do in our own culture, which is faking it till we make it.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it ain't, oh my bad. Like, it ain't, my issue really wasn't like, you know, people being content or just hell-bent on getting Trump out of there. It was the celebration of Biden as if like this was like some big liberation like, or something for us. So that was more so what I was addressing. I'm like, again, based on the comments that I seen from like stemming from, I think something amongst the lines of you know, school integration being one of the most racist concepts, and like, I mean, I can go down the line. I ain't even gonna waste time doing it, but because I'm like, honestly, if you don't know, it's like you clearly you've seen it and didn't care. You just don't want to see it. You're you know, purposefully like being oblivious to it. Like, but yeah, go ahead.
I feel like Malcolm X probably touched on it. Something along the lines of like, you have the conservative white politician, you have the liberal white politician, and typically black people have a better, or we feel we have a better relationship or more of an affinity with your white liberals. Right. But in reality, they're just as racist, if not more racist, than the conservatives. And it's really funny that Joe Biden is actually the presidential candidate versus somebody like Donald Trump, who, you know, is deemed as a racist throughout the nation. But we can't even skip over the fact that Joe Biden was extremely instrumental in that 1994 crime bill that ushered in mass incarceration for black people. Absolutely. To a degree where they say, like, we have more black people in jail now than black people were enslaved, you know, over 100 years ago. Right. And it's like, that's the man that's supposed to be getting rid of a racist.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
And if you go back and look at some of the congressional hearings with Joe Biden and listen to the language that he's using and just the vitriol and the fervor that he has when he's speaking about those things, And liberals, they use euphemisms all the time, so they don't always got to come out and say nigger or black or whatever. They can say these criminals, these thugs, these da 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 da. But you know what they talking about. So when you look at those things, it's like, yo, that man is probably one of the most racist people I've ever seen without actually, wearing a Ku Klux Klan hood or something like that.
Or a MAGA hat.
And that's somehow. And it's weird because he became black people's savior through proxy of him being vice president for Obama, right? And that's it. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, he hasn't done anything for the black community to speak of. He hasn't, been part of no protests. He hasn't stood up for us in no type of way. It's just that he was vice president.
And Bernie had all that.
Exactly.
Right.
Bernie had all that.
Just throwing that out there.
It's just the fact, and don't even get me started on Barack, but just the fact that he was in close proximity to Barack, it carried over to black people. Like, oh, that's our savior now, and it's sad to see, honestly, but
it's such a sheep mentality. It's very unfortunate, the whole groupthink ideal or phenomena that's going on in America today, whether it's from one party or the next. Doesn't matter what part of the spectrum, is groupthink regardless, whether it's religion, whether it's belief systems, and it's always passed down from what was before.
Right.
And that is so unfortunate because people are so close-minded to the idea that things can change, things can be different. Things don't have to be what your ancestors or your people or your parents or your grandparents, how it was for them. It doesn't have to be that way. But ultimately, I don't know. I find it very interesting how Americans, that's part of why I don't watch the news, is that whole groupthink thing. Like, this is all biased. CNN is for liberals. Fox is for Republicans, and that's kind of like a thing. If there's an in-between, world news? Maybe. Like, even then, it's like filtered, though. Everything's filtered in some lens or another. Right. So you're never going to get the whole scope of things. You're always going to get one bias or the next, and that's human experience, but ultimately, like, we can work against that. We can work to give every side a voice or every side a glance or a second look, because ultimately it doesn't always have to be black or white. There's so much gray areas within humanity that is so overlooked, it's ridiculous.
Right. And his vice president, he chose Miss please don't kill me if I say her name, Kamala Harris.
Kamala.
Yeah.
I've heard.
I ain't gonna say whatever, but my apologies for if I'm saying her name wrong. I still
get chewed up for that.
How do y'all feel about, like, because I think it's a bigger discussion within our community, like, what, like, I guess percentage per se do you need to have in you, in your guys' opinion, that would, like, qualify you as being a black woman or a black man?
I view Kamala as black. Like, I don't know what break down her ethnicity or anything like that, but when I look at her, I see a black woman just before even knowing anything else about her. I look at her like somebody showing pictures, like, what ethnicity? I'm like, oh, black. Okay. You feel me? You can say, oh, Jamaican, Indian, da da da. That's not even my argument. I don't even care about that, to be perfectly honest. Okay. But I do view her as a black woman. Like, that's not even a debate for me.
And for me personally, I definitely view it as pretty dope. Like, ultimately coming from the same heritage in the sense of she will be, and I hope I'm saying it right, of Douglas heritage, which is West Indian and African, and that's Black and Indian, and I am the same mix. Okay. I want to say exactly the same race or mix as she is, but my mother is Black, African American, my father is African and Indian, but Jamaican, because both his people are born and both his parents are born and raised in Jamaica. Okay. But with Jamaica, it not being black, white, it's not real. It's like hard to find the balance. I've noticed myself, because it's like, they're Jamaican, but they're Indian, but they're black, and it's like, ultimately, our vice president is a representation of me, which is dope. I never would love to be in politics. I find it completely illogical to want to rule a country, but that's a power thing, that's a change thing, that's a passion thing that I can never understand. Right. But I love that there's representation for black women, for mixed women, for people in third world countries that you can make it to such a high point in life and make a change, make a difference, have a voice. I love that representation. I can't say that I'm so passionate to be like, oh my God, Kamala, yes, my spirit animal, and this, like, and I love it. Love to see it. Does not affect me particularly. Love to see it, because maybe if she was a therapist or a psychologist, that's where we're down, it'd be a little different. But love that she's making a mark and doing something for females, young females who need to see it.
I think my probably level of ignorance is what stopped me from really like celebrating the fact that we have our first black vice president in history, because there was so many question marks that I seen around her ethnicity, of her, for her not like really projecting her blackness, I guess, until recent years of the election coming up. And I don't know. I think like I just literally recently went and looked and seen like, okay, like her dad is Jamaican and her mom's side is supposed to be like Indian. And the way I, take things in, like I basically think like if you're at least 50%, I would say like, you're black, because there'd be people that be having like a percentage of it and then want to jump in and say like, oh yeah, I'm black, like when it's at their convenience.
They did their
so I try to be real careful when it comes to that. And then me seeing some of the stories centered around her when she was prosecuting and seeing certain people that she potentially locked up that were, and I ain't gonna say potentially, there were people that were locked up that were innocent under her prosecution. So, I mean, but Obama really, he also had things that I had issues with when he was in office, but I always say that I have like another found respect for him just on two merits. Where one, I think there's a lot of young black kids in 2008 that probably saw that and were like, man, like, I really can do anything.
Right.
Like, we talked about it a little bit last night, how we always have to be told, when we go out, like, you can do anything, you can be anything. And it's like, no, they see it. So I think the perpetuation of that, like, of young black kids at the time, we still are going to see, I think, an aftermath of, we don't know what endless possibilities of young African Americans coming up who are going to say, like, that was the moment that sparked something in me to where I seen, So I have respect for him on that. And the fact that he condemned white supremacy adamantly on a national scale. Right. You know what I mean? And I think he's probably the first president I could think of, definitely in my lifetime, that I've seen do that. So I have respect for that aspect alone. But I think if I was to get more educated maybe on what her ethnicity exactly is, and I'm like, I try not to kind of go in on certain things without fully knowing what the full circumstances are. I think that's what's been stopping me. But if it checks out that she is indeed black woman, like, of course that's something I celebrate, that's something I'm proud of on that merit alone. And whatever issues I have outside of that, I'll have outside of that. But that's just like basically my take on her.
I say for myself, it's not even like the issue isn't whether or not she's black or whatever, whatever she claims to be. I ain't even tripping. It's more the fact that I feel like them choosing her to be the vice president was more of like
absolutely.
Like the exact definition of tokenism. Like, she's female minority liberal or something like that. And it's like, okay,
she checks all the boxes.
Especially in today's like social climate, she pairs extremely well with Joe Biden. Like, to American sensibilities, you're getting your traditional white man who's still in charge, but you still have
the diversity,
the black woman who who knows how to go along with the structure and not rock the boat too much. Right. And so when they say that, like, she's going to be his running mate, I didn't get excited at all. It didn't mean because I saw it for what it was. I hope a lot more people did too. But then that on its own, and then also when you look at like her track record as like far as you know, people she's convicted, information that she's kept to keep people in jail, different ways that she's went after people, is kind of like, yo, you playing for the other side, like you playing for the other side big time. So and then thinking about, I'm forgetting dude's name, but the guy who was over that the DA who was over the Breonna Taylor indictment.
Okay, I forgot his name.
Yeah, well, it was hilarious, fucking, but
right, fuck that nigga. Like, fuck him.
But my point is, he's a black man. You feel me? He's a black man in that office. So a lot of times, we'll say having a black person in office is a sign of progress, but that's not necessarily the case. Just
sometimes
because
it's
we don't
a sign of complacency.
Exactly,
like,
you don't know what their mindset is. Somebody showed a picture of the dude who was over there. We gotta get his name, but the dude who was over the Breonna Taylor case, he was getting his hair cut at like super cuts. You feel me? And as a black man, you go for 100%. Like you're not gonna go
super
cut
to
get your hair cut.
okay.
Like that's a red flag in and of itself. But just because we have people that, you know, share our skin color, don't mean they share our mentality. Don't mean that they want to help us advance at all. So with Kamala Harris, once again, I've been divested from politics, so it don't really. They got me with Barack. You feel me? They got me with Barack one time. I voted for him twice, but you know, now I'm just kind of like, all right. I feel like by the time, if you're black, by the time you actually make it to a point where you're being, I don't know, considered for these offices, you probably
have sold out a lot.
Yeah, sold out a long time ago.
A long time ago.
I mean, and another thing that's, I think, kind of holding me back from genuinely celebrating is me questioning your integrity with us, because like when you do pandering, like I don't know if you guys seen when she went on Breakfast Club and said like she was listening to Snoop and Pac in college, and then they went back and checked of when she graduated. I mean, like her PhD, master's, like all of that. She was done in, I think, like 86, 87 before they was even in the industry. So it's like little stuff like that. Like it's not a big deal, but it's like clearly who are you trying to convince, us or you? Like
like so, you had no reason to go that extra 10 minutes.
It's such an easily disprovable.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like it's easy to disprove. Like you think,
and it's hard for me to kind of distinguish that between when Hillary Clinton went on Breakfast Club talking about I keep hot sauce in my purse.
Yeah, and like I'm not finna play. I didn't hear that, but whatever. I don't want to hear it. Like,
and the funny thing is, Charlamagne like straight up asked her like, "Are you trying to say that just to just trying to get the black people?" And she didn't even like try to hide it. She was just like, "Oh, is it working? Like, you can go look it up. Like, it's all
and I will.
You look
like,
all this put up. Like,
ridiculous.
So it like I kind of looked at it as the same, and it's like, but you're supposed to be a black woman, so why do you need to convince us that you're a black woman?
Right.
You know what I mean,
and let's not even speak on the fact that she got like a. I ain't gonna say it.
Say it.
Go ahead. Say it. Like,
she got a white husband.
Oh yeah.
That matters.
That's the dagger. Yeah,
that matters.
That is another dagger.
No
like, you got too many question marks.
That matters.
All right, so yeah, apparently, like I said, I don't know if y'all heard, but there's a vaccine that they've I think they're working on, that they've started utilizing or testing out in Russia. I think the company is like Pfizer or something.
Yeah, I just posted something about that.
Okay, yeah. They're saying that's like 90% complete. And my thing is, like, since the pandemic hit back in like March, like that's the biggest thing we've kept hearing, like, oh, they gotta find a vaccine. But literally everybody I've asked about this, whether black, white, whatever, like I think I found maybe one person out of like the hundreds that I've asked the simple question of like, when they come out with a vaccine, are you gonna take it? Like everybody has said no, they're not taking it. So I don't know what's supposed to be like such the like need or necessity for a vaccine if everyone's saying they're not gonna take it, or if they try to like mandated for us to go to work. I don't know how that's supposed to work, but I guess I'll just ask y'all the same question. Like, if they come with a vaccine, do y'all plan on taking it?
Absolutely not. Personally,
Yeah, what's your reason? Like,
I mean, if I tap into, when it comes to the virus and stuff, you know, sometimes I gotta stray away from conspiracy thinking. However, when I tap into it, it's like, what a means of control. I'm big into psychology too. That was my first love. Like, mass control is big. I like cults, so I know a lot about it.
right.
Yeah, that's a for sure good way. Fear mongering and then bring a solution.
Right.
And then on top of, it does bring about a lot of conflict for me. Being raised Christian, no longer being Christian or religious. And it's like, that's a lot of cognitive dissonance of like wanting to go against what you formerly believed. And what I formerly believed is that this is that mark that Revelation was talking about.
Yeah, that's what my mom was saying. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, wait, but if I believe in one part, I have to believe in a good amount of other stuff. But I can't deny prophecy or supernatural things because that's beyond my understanding and it hasn't happened to me firsthand. I don't have to believe in it or think about it. But whatever the case may be, it's a bit sketch. I feel like it's too fast. That's what I've heard a lot of as well, is that it takes years to develop vaccines.
Right.
Y'all trying to pump it out in 6 to 8 months. Y'all got people messed up like at the same time.
And there was already controversy regarding vaccines before this pandemic hit.
So it's like, now that it's hit, it's like, all right, well, once again, it goes back to that group think and sheep mentality. Like, are y'all just going to get it because y'all nervous and y'all scared and y'all... I got tested because I live in a household full of... people over 50. On top of that, I was dealing with the regular common cold stuff. I was tested negative. Okay. But ultimately, it's a matter of like, you never know.
I would hope so.
I mean, right? Right? I'd hope so too, right? Common sense would tell me to stay away if that wasn't the case. However, it's like, I'm all about being cautious. But when it comes down to, I'm not about to just be like, oh yeah, let's just get something and injected just cause. I mean, I don't even get flu shots for real. Right. I don't care too much about it. If it happens, it happens. That's my way of going. If it doesn't, cool. Right. But what about y'all?
Yeah, I would never get no vaccine. Period. Honestly, I don't like she said. I don't even get the flu. I don't even get the flu shot. Right. But I feel like it's all money at the end of the day. Pharmaceutical companies are not to be trusted whatsoever on no type of level. And yeah, like for them to come out with a vaccine within less than a year of the virus coming out, when initially they were saying we don't know anything about it. Right. Now all of a sudden they're rolling out a vaccine. And what I posted earlier was the CEO of Pfizer. He just sold off like $5.6 million of stock after they came out saying we have positive results, saying like it's like the 80 to 90% positive result. And typically, if you own stock in a company, you don't sell it if you feel like they're about to do something good. They typically sell their stocks when they feel like the stock's about to take a dip. Yeah, so I don't know, that's a little conspiracy theory-ish for me, but just...
I mean, there's gonna be with something like that, though. People can try to escape it all they want, but it's gonna cross everybody's mind whether they admit it or not, so it ain't no issue with that on my end, like, when it comes to this, at least. Because I feel the exact same way as Jhene. Like, yeah, I'm not the most educated on vaccines, but I mean, I also have a grandpa who's been a doctor for over 40 years, and he's also said that he don't really have all the answers when it comes to vaccines as well. So
to speak on, like, doctors, even though they are like educated in whatever specific, and even the realm of medicine is extremely complex and diverse. So you could have a doctor that specializes in like cancer cells, but knows nothing about, I don't know, skeletons or something like that. Mm-hmm. So just because they're a doctor doesn't mean that they're omniscient and infallible on every single thing. They make mistakes, and a lot of times they just get the drug. They might not even know exactly what's inside of the vial that they're injecting into you. They probably don't even know the type of effects that it has. They just know that they get paid this much every time they give somebody a shot, and because they went to school for all these years and have a certificate, then legally they're able to do it without, you know, any true ramifications, right? And we as the populace go to them expecting them to have all the answers and expecting them to know better than we do, and in some cases they do, But I feel like when it comes to vaccines, it's like they're getting it from a company that doesn't care about people. They care about their bottom line. Right. And then the doctors, they may or may not care about people. They see probably like 1,000 people a week. So you're just another number to them. It's like, if I see however many people I see this week, that's how much is going to be on my check or however they do it. So when it comes to like, especially when it comes to vaccines, and I didn't even speak on the vaccines that they give to babies after they're born, because that's a whole other subject, even though they're related.
For sure, that's a whole episode.
That's a diverting off,
But it's just, you just can't trust it. You just can't trust it, and I do feel like it's too soon. They're playing on the fears of everybody.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
super playing.
There are talks, and I feel like it would send the country into like hella civil war if they do like mandated, like you have to get the vaccine or else you can't go back to work. Or you can't, you can't, if it was like you can't get your EDD until you get vaccinated or something, because they do stuff like that.
Right.
I'm quite sure more people than we would think would probably just go out and get it. And we don't
just so they can get access to day-to-day stuff.
Easy to say no right now until.
But ultimately, I've thought about that too. I mean, if we are still diving into like the conspiracy aspect of this whole thing, like what a tool for mass control. Like, can we talk about it? Like, what a tool for mass control. And I mean, when it comes to information being passed down, of course, there's doctors that specialize in different things. Like they spend their whole lives researching and conducting different experiments to prove certain hypotheses, whatever it may be. It's like they have certain specialties, but overall, most people, doctors, civilians, it doesn't really matter. They're gonna believe and take the information passed down to them from the people before them as truth and not question it. I have a whole thing regarding that, because it's like, not only being black, it's like, all right, well, openly, our history is filtered. We don't find out even a fraction
we don't trust
of our history. We don't find out a fraction of where we come from, nothing. And for me, I went to Christian school, so it's like, it was even more sectioned off. Like, evolution was a small paragraph in the book. Like, it's... Creation is how things happen, whatever the case may be, but it's like we only believe what the people before us told us.
Right.
We can't really question it. There was whole book burning periods just so they would be able to not spread the information that they knew on to people to come. And people don't think about that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think about it too much, and I'm just like, I don't know what to believe. Yeah, like, I'm conflicted.
Even though medicine is considered like a scientific field, there's still a lot of like dogma in it that's akin to religion, where it's like we don't question this, we know this because we know this, and that's what we've been told, that type of stuff. So it's like when it comes to vaccines, you can't just take it just because they say it's
right, good. Whoever they is, like whoever they is.
Well, one thing I was thinking was like, all right, well, y'all want us to take this vaccine so bad, like, let me see you take it first.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let's see how that works.
Like in China, not to uplift China or anything like that, but if you do something wrong and like say you the head of a company in China and your product results in like several people dying, even if you didn't intend for it to happen like that, you'll have to like they'll kill you for that. They'll kill you for that.
Steep. Yeah, I mean we know them other countries they go.
Yeah. I'm not saying you should follow China in any type of way, but I'm just saying like I'm quite sure.
They take that serious.
Yeah, if like the people who made the vaccines knew like damn people start dying.
Or whatever other effect, even though dying, like,
right.
Some people think, again, conspiracy, but some people think there's some level of autism that could come from particular vaccines, and so whatever effects can come from it. So on a lighter note, notorious B.I.G. Mr. Biggie Smalls is supposed to be getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. I didn't see the exact date yet, but Diddy posted on Twitter that Biggie was going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's kind of like a subject in itself, though. Like, and this has been brought up before when I remember when I think Jay-Z was inducted. And I don't remember if it was Rock and Roll or like the Writers Association or something of that degree. But do y'all think that hip hop should have its own like Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely,
for
should have
sure.
been had that.
For sure.
Me personally.
It always confuses me when like a hip hop artist gets like inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right,
It's
like Rock and Roll
what,
rare.
the hip hop Hall of Fame was just
Right. I mean, even though music stems from us in itself anyway, which is, you know, they started rock and roll, but we know what the stigma of it is.
Right.
It's like that's a white, you know.
right. Unfortunately, I mean, I think it's still not to be like super militant, but it just comes back to the fact it's like, why are we excited that white people are acknowledging our greatness? Like,
Right.
that's just what it stems back to. Like, you know, shout out to them. I don't know if you like get like an extra, if his family start getting an extra check or something like that, because that'd be
Right,
dope.
because what are the perks?
Right, but
You gotta know.
outside of that,
I mean, I guess his estate would, I guess, raise in value
okay,
from that in itself.
that's beautiful.
I mean, if there was a hip hop Hall of Fame, like let's be real, like I would kind of have a question if Biggie makes that. I'm gonna explain why though. Let me explain why.
Tupac like more Tupac?
It has no. I mean, I am a huge Tupac fan, but it don't really have as much to do with that. What it is, and I'm not. I would put Biggie in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think it was like how, I don't know if you guys know how like basketball and baseball and football work. Like you got first ballot, and if you don't make first ballot, at some point you might get voted in based on whatever year. You can get voted in 2 years from now. You can get voted in 30 years from now. That's how usually it works. I don't think Biggie would be like first ballot because he only had two albums, and that's really my biggest issue. Like I don't think he gave us enough body of work. Now it was damn great body of work that he gave us thus far, but I don't know. I didn't see enough. Like, cause even like when people bring up like they top 10 lists or like, you know, I mean, if you talking like top 10 lyricists, like absolutely, I think he's in that conversation. But top 10 rapper or hip hop artists, it's like it's too many people who have a full body of work who are just as talented. You know?
I can't not give it to him. Like I feel like, and maybe just because I've been drinking that Kool-Aid pretty much my whole life, but as far as like a lyricist, boom, for sure. Top, like not even just like a regular lyricist. He's like a top.
Yeah, you made an impact where you changed. Yeah,
top,
for sure.
Top tier level lyricist. As far as like songs, like he was able to do both, which I feel like a lot of, especially rappers back then, it's either you like hella underground and street, or you coming with the like, you know, the pop songs or whatever. He did both flawlessly, and it was believable.
With the help of Diddy.
But that, yeah, for sure. Diddy put that sauce on it like a hell.
Sure.
Like he put sauce on it like a mug. But he did his thing, and like he showed versatility. Came with the songs. His first album, classic, like unanimously considered a classic.
I mean, both of them.
Yeah, second album unanimously a classic, but second album was a double disc, and just the overall impact. Probably because of his death, probably made him, you know, more
as he typically does with artists, like.
for sure. But I still feel like it's all well deserved because the path that he was on as far as like an artist, it's like
but it's like if there's I mean, I don't really want to use the basketball as an example because our Hall of Fame is kind of soft, but like for baseball and football for sure, they're a lot more tough. And like if you on your way to greatness, but then you have like some huge injury that derails your career, it's like, yeah, we speak of what would have been. You might get your 30 for 30 or whatever, but no, we can't put you in there because you didn't do enough.
I think cultural impact is like probably like not just his cultural impact on hip hop and like the legacy that he left, because you gotta see he gave us Lil' Kim too, like on top of that. Right. So he, within the short amount of time that he was here doing his thing, he did a lot, and he did it like at the highest level,
right.
Like this decisively above and beyond everybody else at the time. Like I love Tupac for sure, but
you said above and beyond everybody else.
Above
bro, you about
beyond.
to start something, bro.
Above
What? Hold up, bro. You ain't about to just slide past that.
Above and beyond, I'm telling you.
You need to elaborate on
like,
that.
Lyrically, what I mean is lyrically, like lyrically on some street stuff.
I don't even think he was the nicest lyricist at that time though. Nas was out at that time.
See, we about
Like,
I mean, but there's different levels
bro,
to
I'm ready
lyricism
for
too.
all the
There's
smoke, bro. I'm ready for all the smoke.
There's differences. But ultimately, I think I just seen a meme or something the other day, and it was like Tupac was a better artist. Biggie was a better lyricist.
Right.
I felt that on a strong level because I felt like
start that right
no, but listen, like Tupac had the package. He had the he had the star package.
Right.
He could act. He can rap. He had the image.
Right.
With the movies, he had the impact on the community. Like he had it all.
Right.
Biggie was mainly for his lyricism. Like not, I mean, I can't say that I'm well versed on Biggie or Tupac and what they did as far as accolades through and through.
Mm-hmm.
However, it seems like Tupac was a lot more versatile than Biggie was.
Musically, yeah, I would say so.
Sure, like
and he was he had, I think the biggest thing is he had like a message behind his music versus Biggie was just like a dope rapper.
Right.
But
And he
Pac
was
actually,
talking about more. He was talking about more street shit, more violent shit. I mean, granted, he was more aggressive with the shit. Tupac had his moments, but ultimately he had the whole piece with the community.
He'll give
he
you
had
Dear
those
Mama.
moments.
He'll give
exactly.
you
He'll have the
California
vulnerability.
Love,
He'll have it all. So it's like the versatility wise, I can see.
But Pac really didn't get on like that rah super gangster stuff though,
So
until
like
his last album.
Right.
That was, I'm not talking about his personal life. I'm talking about like musically when he came out here.
Right, you talking about
he
he got with Death Row.
Yeah, that was when, because a lot of that's honestly why a lot of East Coast niggas don't really mess with Pac. Like if you look at like the these radio stations and all that out there, that's the reason why they throw so much shade, because they'll say like they liked him more when he had like more of a message, and when, not that his message went anywhere, but it kind of got diluted within all his other stuff when he had Snoop and Daz and Lady of Rage and all of them like working.
Also, one thing I gotta say about Biggie is that when he came out, the focus was on like the West Coast big time.
Right.
So when he came out, like he basically brought like that East Coast. He brought the attention back to the East Coast.
Right.
So that's another reason why he's like considered, in my opinion, Hall of Fame worthy.
Because they salty over there. Because
this
is what happened.
He came back and took like with the West Coast. Then we're not known for being super lyrical, but we got like that. We got the groove for sure.
Right. Well, we brought a different element to hip hop that they didn't have, which, how good it was or not is left to be debated.
It was fantastic.
But obviously they will, because they don't look at it like that. Is what I'm saying. Like,
you talking about on the East?
Yeah, on the East Coast.
Yeah,
that's why they didn't really mess with our music like that, which is why like the East and West went to the level it went.
Music, but for sure they were hating on this big time.
I mean, if you wasn't Snoop and Jerry, they wasn't.
That's true.
They wasn't really
like music. But my point is, and I'm just trying to build a case for Biggie to be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, to be fair, I said I would put him in there. I said I don't think he would be first ballot.
First ballot Hall of Fame. You got the lyricism, boom. You got the versatility and the fact that he could go street, he could go pop without it being corny. He has the appeal for him to be, incredibly unattractive.
Biggie went pop.
No, yeah, but like, hell yeah, pop. What's that shit? For all the ladies in the place with a style and grace, allow me to live the ways with dishes, wishes. I remember when you call me Big Pop, that's pop. That's for sure pop. It's hip hop, but it's poppy hip hop.
That's like,
especially
at that. Like some G-Funk type.
Nah, that's pop. Yeah, no, G-Funk is pop. I don't care what nobody say. G-Funk, right. Dr. Dre, all that is pop. Like G-Funk is pop music.
You basically mean radio.
Yeah, okay. Radio stuff. Like not like I figure like the locks is.
I just don't like that term, but unless they really, because there's rappers that really do go pop.
Yeah,
I mean, you can say it's a derivative of pop. I mean, that's maybe.
There you go. We can call it that, but it was like more radio friendly, where it's like we listening to it more so for like the hood and like the the beat and stuff like that. Not necessarily like, oh, this nigga's spitting like something like that, but he could give you both. And then he figured out how to have like that image, that persona, where it's like it worked for him. Cause like looking at him, he not, the most attractive dude. He not, there's nothing really about him that really stand out other than like he probably
everybody attractive when they got money.
But what I'm saying is he had the swag to back it up. You could give like a dude with no charisma, all the money, all the clothes and everything, and he's still gonna be looking like a corny nigga. Biggie put it all together. He got his team together.
Right.
He put on another artist that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, which is Lil Kim.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a big point you brought up. Like, I think him giving us Kim is a big one because of the impact that Kim had on the future generation.
I won't say he gave us Cameron, but before he died, he wanted to sign Cameron too. So had he, I ain't gonna say
I do know about that story. Yeah.
And then on top of all that, he put his coast on his back and brought it back to the center stage.
Right.
So I give him, and he did it all in a short amount of time.
Okay.
So that's why I give him that first ballot thing, because it's like he was just coming with it, like just every direction. It's like he covered all bases.
But if you on your way to being the GOAT, and then you tear your ACL in your third year, and it's like a career-ending ACL injury.
Bo Jackson.
You can't just say he better than Michael Jordan, like, and you was on your way, but you didn't complete your task.
That's like the D Rose thing, because like D Rose came out
right.
The only thing D Rose was lacking was a championship. Had he won a championship, he would have you couldn't tell me nothing.
Well, I mean, it's not too late for him to get one.
But I mean, I'm talking about like that first run with Chicago when he first came out. It was just
well, that's the thing though. Like, that's a perfect analogy because he didn't have that much time. I think his third year is when he got that MVP, and then the following year is when the NBA lockout happened, and then he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
So, and he hasn't really. I mean, he's been solid, but he hasn't really been able to beat out the roles of old because he's from the same generation as like the Stephs and Russells, and they still dynamic right now. So clearly he would have been on par with them. But back to Big, like I don't think it's fair to put him in that caliber. I definitely don't think he's the greatest rapper ever because that was what Diddy said in a tweet. Like, congrats to the greatest rapper ever.
I feel like Jay-Z the best rapper, greatest rapper ever.
And
I feel like that's all subjective, depending on what you're looking for in a rapper.
Speaking, Jay-Z's the best rapper.
I think he's the most decorated.
Oh man, we about to change it.
Here's the thing, like, because it does kind of correlate to what we're talking about. Because I think with people can have their personal opinions of who they think the greatest is. I take everything into consideration, and when it comes to Jay-Z, it's kind of hard to argue him being the greatest. I actually give Pac that edge because of who he was outside of like just music. Like with Ali, they call him the greatest not just because of him being in the ring, but the fight that he took also outside of it. And I think they put him in that stratosphere because of that. Jay-Z doesn't really have that behind him as much as Pac did. He hasn't really been as vocal. He actually has more questionable things regarding our community.
I'm just talking about purely for like the hip hop music. I look because like Tupac probably my favorite. It's between him and Kanye. Like who's my favorite like persona.
Okay.
But as far as like just within the realm of like hip hop, I don't know what's the word like. Attributes. I feel like Jay-Z and I'm not like Jay-Z's not even my favorite hip hop artist, but like I feel like if I had to say who's the best, like objectively, if we had like a category looking at everything, I wouldn't.
It's hard to argue that though because of his, like you said, the accolades, the accomplishments, his lyrical ability. Even though a lot of that is questionable, it's a whole nother topic. But like a lot of that spit he was spitting was big, like. Okay. He had a lot of lines that he was kind of taking credit for. It was like, nigga. And it's not like just no paying homage type shit. It's like, no, nigga, that's big, bro. And some of the, like, like probably more memorable lines you could think of from Jay was something that, that Big said. Like, even down to the, when the Remy's in your system, ain't no telling you know what I mean? Like, and that's probably that was probably Jay's, like, turning point of being, like, household name, like the superstar. So I get what you're saying as far as Big's impact that he had, which, you know, some of it probably was due to him, his passing, you know, in an untimely fashion. But I think he's one of those people to where it's like, yeah, maybe one day roll him in there, but I wouldn't say like you just solidified first ballot, because I just felt like it was cut too short. And that's also the reason why I don't have him over Pac, because it was too short. Like, Pac was clear-cut superstar, like, you know what I'm saying, when it was his time, you know, I mean, even I think the Juice movie was around the same time as Tupacalypse.
Well, now we're talking about, like, star power, or we talking about, like, what we talking about?
Well, I'm saying, like, as far as you doing enough, like, I mean that does come into place,
that's
because you said impact,
though, like you
know,
said.
Like, I mean, cultural.
Because if you look
like,
at rappers being in like movies and TV shows and stuff, Pac and I think Cube and like Onyx, I think were like the first of that. That group.
With you. I love Tupac, but it's hard for me to like go through, like, to sit down and listen to a full Tupac album.
Hey,
like,
get the hell
hard.
out. Me Against the World, bro, that was fire, hard, top to bottom, no skips, bro. Nah, you are tripping. Tripping.
I'm going through it.
All right, so like I said, on a more sad note, we have another rapper. Unfortunately, you know, I hate that this seems like the split is getting normal, but another rapper that we lost due to gun violence, King Von. I didn't know, you know, much about like his music, but I did see his name often, so I know he was kind of like a, you know, becoming more of a household name, and probably one of the bigger names that I've seen from Chicago. And from what I've seen in the situation, you know, there's a lot of controversy around it, because, you know, a lot of people were very, you know, empathetic towards him. You know, just at the situation alone, you know, we lost another young black man's life, and he wasn't even in Chicago. It was the irony of it. He was in Atlanta. They said there was a scuffle that broke out, and, you know, throughout the crossfire, you know, there were some rumors at first that a cop killed him. But that was like disproved. Like, that's not true. And there was videos released regarding it. I personally didn't watch the video because, again, it's not something I'm trying to normalize where I just, you know, see a young black man gunned down. But from the bits and pieces that I have seen and from people's interpretation, apparently him and Quando Rondo had some type of dispute back and forth. There was a fight that broke out. I guess Quando Rondo had more people with him that attempted to jump. No, I'm sorry. King Von had more people with him that attempted to jump Quando Rondo, and one of the Quando Rondo's friends pulled out a gun and shot multiple people. Right? It wasn't just him. There's somebody else that passed away, and 3 other people that were shot in the midst of that. And dude was arrested. He is in jail awaiting trial right now. But yeah, so the controversy of it was basically if they was in the right or wrong, you know what I mean, because they were attempting to jump him. And I guess depending on your background, where you come from, and what code you follow, you know what I mean, it could be, you know, it's up in the air. I feel it was wrong, you know what I'm saying, regardless, you know what I mean. I mean, I've been jumped before, you know what I mean, so I get that perspective, because, you know, even though, yeah, you could say, like, oh, you using hands, but, I mean, anything could happen. You could be beat to death, you know what I mean, depending on the severity or how many people it is. So, I mean, from that perspective, I do understand, and sorry if I sound insensitive, but I can't see, you know, that perspective based on the information that I have. And I also seen that, you know, Quando was like apparently like trying to help him into the car and get him to the hospital. So clearly it's not something he's like using as a badge of honor. Like, it's something that I'm sure it probably changed his life forever, that he feels very, you know, sympathetic towards. I just kind of, you know, want y'all take on, like, man, where the hell are we, like, where we at right now, like, as far as, you know, this, I hate to say this cliche, but the black on black, you know, crime, and, you know, how this has become so normalized when we hear one of our, young rappers or actors, you know what I'm saying? Because we've also had that over the years that are like gunned down due to, you know, some type of violent dispute.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I look at it at is it's more black on black crime. It just so happens that the person that got killed happened to be famous at this time.
Right.
I can't really speak on like the politics between the two factions or whatever. It's just unfortunate. You feel me? Like we just keep on killing each other. Honestly, at the end of the day, whether, you know, I can't say it's justified or unjustified, whether, you know, whatever.
Right.
But it's just all unfortunate.
Right. And you said that you were just kind of getting into it.
Yeah. Like probably like a month or so ago, I had just like stumbled across his music, just doing random searches on YouTube or whatever, and like I've never really been like a super big fan of like drill music and nothing like that.
Right. Same.
But what I liked about his music was he told stories. So like I got always, any rapper that tells a story, like he gonna like catch my ear just off the rip.
Sure.
So he was really good at telling stories. So, you know, that's kind of what it is. But
I mean, did you know much about him?
I did not, honestly. I maybe saw his name come up in like drama here and there.
Right, exactly. Same.
About jabs at other people, but I didn't really know much about his music or him. Sorry to him and his family, you know.
For sure.
It's unfortunate nonetheless. I think it's also unfortunate how comfortable not only our community, but just America these days is just so comfortable with gun violence. Like, why are we so comfortable with shooting or using? And I see it. I mean, I can play the devil's advocate and see the other perspective. However, it's not logical to me. It's something so easily thrown around, as if a bullet can't hit many different parts of your body and take you out in one bullet in the matter of minutes. You know, like, and I understand like there's different nuances depending on the situation. Obviously, absolutely. But like you said, I think it's also, you know, it's just unfortunate that we lost another black talented individual. To something that seems pretty senseless in the grand scheme of things. Yes,
from getting to that level.
What's is probably going to continue, and
it's not going nowhere. Exactly. That's the hard part. Is that part of why, which does play into the whole desensitization of things, but ultimately it's like I know this isn't gonna be the last time. Like I know there's probably 5 more to come. Not wishing that on nobody, but that's the reality of our world in America. Especially
involved in Chicago.
Especially Chicago. That's a whole different. That's a whole war zone for real. Like it's very complicated when it comes to even just living there, existing in that area. Despite what you're affiliated with, all of that.
Yeah, because, and not to cut you off, but, you know, I have a couple of friends that live in Chicago and grew up in Chicago, and I remember having conversations with both of them when I think FBG ducked when his situation happened. I remember, you know, just kind of get more of a sense of understanding, because that's just something I often do. I'll try to go to the horse's mouth directly and kind of see, like, man, like, you know, what's the, you know, the feeling there. And I plan on having, you know, a couple of them come to the show at some point to give their perspective. But from what he was telling me is, like, you know, like, people outside looking in don't understand that this, like, it stems back decades, you know, with their cliques that go at each other, because, you know, you have people that die, you have family members that die. So it's like, it's easy for us to say, like, you know, just stop. But for them, you know, and then, again, them living in the war zone, like, how can we tell them not to stay protected? Exactly. You know what I mean? That was another topic today of, like, you know, should he have had a gun on him? You know, I mean, I think we lightweight talked about this, how, like, you know, I mean, well, I know how I am. Like, if I need a gun to go somewhere, like, that means that's probably a predicament I don't need to be in at all anyway. But again, that's easy for me to say, and I'm not in that lifestyle right now.
You never know, things happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
but I feel like it just boils down, because I mean, you know, growing up like in LA, we understand the
we can understand that.
Yeah, we understand how like we understand how there's a politics of just like I could die today, or I got problems with people that literally live like
can't wear
10
a
minutes
certain
away
color. Like,
from me, and we have, you know, we have frequent interactions with each other, like frequent. Like, I'm gonna see you, like I'm gonna see you because you live in the same neighborhood, and we probably got issues that we got a serious blood feud with each other over issues that, you know, stem back to probably before we was born or something like that, and you just never know. So it's like in situations like that, you always just gotta think, and that's like how I try to move, which is like, I don't know, especially if there's like a big crowd, I'm always playing the back. Like I'm always playing the back, just looking, peeping, like seeing who's moving this way, who's moving that way, who's being like extra aggressive. Like he being extra aggressive, probably for a reason. Right. You feel me? He probably got something on him. Let me chill.
But that's somebody else would know unless they were in these.
Exactly. Like he being like extremely aggressive. He either got all his homies with him, or he got some on him, or whatever. Like I don't know. But
especially them niggas that like you know them, and it's like, hold up, you a little more, right? You know what I mean? Acting tonight than usual, bro.
Right. Like, and I can't really judge. I can't judge. Honestly, I can't judge either side. If they beefing with each other, and that's like, you know, that's how they getting at it. From my understanding, in Chicago, it gets very disrespectful as far as like when dudes get killed on social media. They be making songs about each other and all type of stuff. Right. So I can't judge either side. It's just, you know, it's just the fact of life that way. Like he carried a gun because he was like, you know, I need one. But I feel like this issue stems more to, or we could segue more so into like the mental issues that we dealing with as young black men.
Say the same thing.
Where it's like, even the way we talking about it right now is like, we have a way that we act so we can survive our own environment. Like we have to consider certain things. Like, okay, why they moving like that?
And we can rationalize certain behavior.
What's doing that? So it's like we like, it's low key like we in a war because we looking at certain things, like certain non-verbal cues to kind of like give us an idea of like what could potentially happen. And so it's unfortunate. Man, I think everybody involved ain't even like 30. You feel me? Like they old enough to know, like, to be over the hump of like, all right, you know, let me get off this bullshit.
And based on their backgrounds, they should understand the dynamic. There's been more than enough examples in cases. You know what I mean? For them to see, like, and then even saying like, you know, Quando. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was glad to see, you know, that side of them to where it was just like, man, like, I don't care about none of this that just happened right now, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is something that, you know, I have to be attentive to, but I still hate the fact that, like, you know, more than likely, he probably got a mark on him now, too. Just the fact that it was an altercation that stemmed from him. And again, Chicago people, they don't care. And from my conversations with, you know, my friends that are out there, like, them niggas shoot at cops like it's no tomorrow versus, like, anywhere else, you clearly thinking twice, like, hold up, that's cop. They will have a full-blown shootout with the cops and go home, sleep like a baby, like nothing happened.
And
like,
to me, it's like, I feel like you guys have different insights than I do, just knowing people who live in Chicago, knowing people who have been in gun violence situations or gang-related situations to where they have to know that, like, they have to adapt to a certain type of code. But like Dorian briefly touched that point, for me, it all goes back to mental health in our community. The lack of communication. All of beefs, I can almost assure, because that's the basis of human communication and understanding, is fucking communication, is the lack thereof. Right. And it's always listening to whatever story and what problem happened beforehand, but y'all never try to talk about what really happened, or what did happen or what didn't, or what could be fixed or what could be solved, what nuances could be moved past. But ultimately, it's like, all right, well, there's a rivalry, it's been here. We not gonna stop it now. Like, that kind of is a tradition kind of thing. That same idea with how white people keep traditions for things where there's holidays like Thanksgiving and stuff like that. Things that are celebrate, things that are in the norm, embedded into their culture, their lifestyle. And that's the same with us. Like, it's embedded to If you the op, you the op. We don't fuck with nobody that fucks with the ops. We don't fuck with the ops. Like, and that's that. And it doesn't matter if it's gang related, outside of gang related. People you don't mess with in our culture, you don't mess with people who fraternize with people you don't mess with.
Right.
Or you're fake, you're a snake, you're all that. And you play on both sides. But I feel like it comes down to, like, what's the basis of human communication? Or human understanding, communication. Whether verbal, nonverbal, just like you said, like, it be nonverbal cues that have you on edge. Right. But let's talk about it. Why is there so much fucking tension? Granted, that's something I can easily say being somebody who hasn't been involved in that lifestyle. Right. So, of course, it's easy for me to say, like, why can't we just talk about it? Like, duh. But on the other hand, I know why we can't talk about it. It's deep. It's generations. It's not as easy as just,
exactly.
Oh, well, that's just happened last week. This happened 2 months ago, 6 months ago. It's a generational feuds.
Which is why I
can understand.
Take, like, the ugly stance of saying, like, man, we kind of understand,
yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
And that's how we can rationalize it, too, in a way, and make it normalized in the sense of, like, well, we get it. We can understand where they're coming from, We can understand where they're coming from because we know this reality for our groups of people in these situations. Right. We can understand why this isn't going nowhere, why it's still running the same cycles, why we're still doing the same things, keeping up with the same behavior because we have to. Right. That's our instinct at this point.
I mean, at the end of the day,
in certain areas.
I feel like it's just it's unresolved, like, pain. Like, at the end of the day, like, we all feel the pain of somebody that you love being taken away from you.
Exactly.
You feel me? And then you're in it, but you have no outlets. You're in an environment where it promotes, like, oh, they killed the homie. All right, we know what we gotta do. So nobody's coming through with, like, man, you feel me?
It's a revenge thing.
There's no alternative. There's really no viable alternative. Right. And then to add on top of, we have the means to enact revenge right now if we really want to. We got it all on us right now. And then our mind state is, I don't give a fuck. Like, I just don't give a fuck. Niggas run up right now. I don't give a fuck. Like, whatever it is, I don't give a fuck. So
but
it's like,
sorry to cut you off, but I feel like that also goes to, like, what we talked about last episode with mental health too. Because it's like, when we grieve, we take anger around with it. We don't take the time to fully mourn. We don't take the time to fully think about why we're so hurt. Or it's more like, all right, well, emotional reaction instantly. Don't let it be a life taken by the rival gang or something, because then it's instantly, there's no thought about it. We're grieving. And we grieve after we take revenge, after we make it clear that we're going to ride out for our own people. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, it comes down to suppressing shit. Let's be real. Like, it's ignoring shit. It's putting shit on the back burner, expecting it to just eventually go away because we're solving it in other ways. Like, no, but you should probably acknowledge the fact, not just in the funeral for 2 seconds, because, we're just trying to get it to be quick and keep it going. Right. But let's acknowledge the fact that, all right, well, this really affected us. They had this impact, but we don't have that awareness in our community. We don't. Mm-hmm. We don't have the awareness of, like, it's okay to think deeper about emotions. You don't have to just think about or act on the surface emotion of anger, sadness, hurt. Think deeper as to why. Right. What can you do to help soothe that or nip that in the bud or remedy that in any way, shape, or form, whether it's a relationship or attitude or a self-narrative, whatever it may be. I feel like that's so overlooked in our community.
And I mean, speaking to your point of the normalization that we have, I think when I realized that I had and I do call it an issue, when I feel like I had an issue with that was when, and I don't F with this nigga at all, but when Whack 100 made that comment about Eric Holder when Nipsey passed away, and he was like, and everybody was like outraged at the when he said, basically, when it comes to the law of the land, Eric Holder did what he was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to the conduct of that world. And me coming from that world, he was not wrong when he said that. I understood exactly what he was saying. And anybody that knows me, like, I hold Nip to probably one of the greatest reverence of anybody that's walked this earth. But the fact that I was able to understand in any way what Eric Holder did, even though I feel that nigga's a pussy, I don't mess with bro at all. He's probably like one of the most dirtbag type of scumbag niggas, you know what I mean? Especially if the accusations was true. Like, because whether it was true or not of him being a snitch, you know, again, when it comes to that world, like, yes, that was like, you know, that is how that gets handled, because like, especially like, you know, my brother who was, you know, out there more than I was, you know, in those lanes, like he told me, like, basically when you call somebody a snitch, especially when you're Nipsey, like, you know, you have like you're held to a higher regard, and you call somebody a snitch, like, you might as well say like, hey, come kill this nigga right here. Right. You know what I mean? That it could be taken that way, and you know, in some sort. So you know what I mean? I feel like he should have, you know, took that to the chin, especially if it's true. But, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, going back to the normalization, a lot of people who haven't been a part of situations like that, it just sounded so like,
tribute.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, like you said that, like, but again, like, there's a certain group that can understand, and like, yeah, it is a problem, but we can't help, you know what I mean, like, you know, what we seen. So yeah, that's definitely like a great point. Another level that needs to be addressed. Just like you said last week, like, we got a million issues in our community that we have to go through.
We barely touching the tip of the iceberg, and these are major things. And it's like the fact that it's the tip of the iceberg. Oh man, we African Americans alone have so much to unpack first. Just with our culture and everything, our beginning of our culture, the origins of it and everything. It's like we have so much to unpack. The fact that we'll never have identity. We'll get into that another time.
Right,
however, it's just like, you know, it's very complex for us, and it's not just black and white.
Right.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like it's the jungle for sure. It's the jungle. Sure. So it's like there's no mercy. There's really no righteousness out here.
Yeah, no conduct.
And most black men who come up in that environment and live in that environment, it's like Tupac said in Juice. He's like, I'm not shit. Like, and that's the mentality. Even if they don't verbally say that themselves, they, on some level, through their actions, you can tell that they don't place too much value in their own life. Right. And if you don't place value in your life, you're for sure not gonna place the life of other niggas' lives. And then to compound that issue, it seems like the only our value as black men in that environment goes up, the less reverence we have for life. So if I'm out here doing anything destructive, I'm like, damn, you that nigga, like, just because you out here destroying shit.
Exactly. So like how we view what a real nigga is. Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Usually it's related to street stuff rather than you being a real man and taking care of your business. That's not what's looked at as like a real nigga in our culture.
Yeah, it's a sad situation all the way.
But we gotta also think about where the definitions of what you know, a real nigga, where it comes from. Because ultimately, like, for the white culture that looks as hip hop inappropriate or whatever, a real nigga is somebody that's flossy, that's hood, that has all the money, that has the chains, all of that. When in reality, for us, it's like a real nigga is somebody who takes care of their family, doesn't abandon, handles stuff within the community, you know, handles real life shit, not just put on this persona and be flashy. That's a big difference too of who's dictating what the definition of being real and showing a stand-up nigga, if you would like, you know, showing what that is. Like, it's very subjective on whose definition we going by, because there's different criteria.
And I mean, I hate to say this, but, you know, I'm sure, you know, this topic's gonna come up again at some point. Like, I mean, look alone just in the last month, you know what I mean, how many rappers, and I mean, again, like, that's just the talent side. That's not including the people we know personally.
Right.
Like, you know, I have 2 cousins that just passed away due to gun violence in the last month or 2. So, you know, so it's an ongoing conversation, but, you know, as uncomfortable as it is, we do need to continue to have it and, you know, try to figure this thing out, you know, bit by bit at some point. So we have another versus battle that's potentially brewing. I don't want to get nobody hopes up and say it's like a fact, but apparently Swiss Beats on the Instagram Live has said that that he's working on getting a Tribe Called Quest Outkast verzuz, and if somebody was to ask me, I would think it ain't too many people that could probably see Outkast and something like that. But I actually heard, I was like, damn, I didn't think of that one. That's a good one. Yeah, so like, who y'all got? Who, you know,
Shit.
and put away your Andre 3000 bias, both of y'all.
I know it's in there.
On everything, like, no, I love you.
It's impossible, but I will say Andre 3000 when Fight Dog died said there wouldn't be no Outkast without a Tribe Called Quest. So I'll give him that.
Fight Dog said that?
No, Andre said there wouldn't be.
Okay, yeah.
But
and I love Fight Dog.
Yeah, I'm gonna still go with Outkast. I want Outkast. I mean, it's really like this, but it's like.
Well, you gotta remember,
Outkast.
we talking culture, and like it's like I was saying the other day about like your impact. So, nigga, what Outkast are you gonna play? You know what I mean?
From Southern Playalistic to what was that last one?
I mean, the last one to know probably Idlewild. Like,
well, okay, Idlewild. Yeah, we go there.
Which again was like, you know, a balance because you had like a Hollywood divorce, but then you have, you know, it's like.
I don't know, man.
And then one of the Outkast's biggest songs is "Hey Ya," but I mean, I wish them niggas would try to pull that out.
No, you got pulling out "Hey Ya." I don't care, you pulling out "Hey Ya."
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to just for the fact of how
that better be a bonus
how,
or something. Don't put that in the
popular it
verse.
got though. Like, think about it. That
That's
was in movies. That was in everything. Like, it's a lot. I mean, when I think about Outkast, I love Outkast. So it's like I think about how they even was on the soundtrack for Scooby-Doo, Land of a Million Drums. Like, that's my shit. That's one of my definite get-off songs. But it's like them as a group in itself, Speaker Box Up Below, obviously. Equipment Southern Playalistic, like all of it, like
album,
I love that album.
It's by far.
I feel like Speaker Box Love Below, I have more acquaintance with that. I know probably all the songs.
But that was like Dre experimenting too.
Yeah.
So it's
fair,
like, dude,
and that's fair. I like their older stuff.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, like I remember the baseball jersey.
Yeah, no,
Dre, you know what I'm saying? That's the one Outkast I'm thinking about. Like,
no, I get you.
But A Tribe Called Quest for me, they like foundational hip hop, where it's like the boom, bap.
And I feel like they dabbled with having the combination of jazz in there too.
Yeah, but Outkast, they blend like the foundational hip hop, but they for sure, you know, went beyond it and experimented without question. And then I mean, we can even go to like appearance. You feel me? Like Andre 3000 with the clothing, like.
I mean, we can talk about the germ shit.
Yeah, we can go there.
I love Drake too much to sit there and say what I think about that. Are we gonna keep it straight to
music? Just straight music, or we doing like just like the whole?
I'm talking.
I mean, because we have another conversation about like, you know, all the nuances of music.
Because I mean, we could go deep, but Andre 3000, we can go deep.
But he's absolutely right though. Like Tribe is clearly a direct influence of the Outkast when you listen to it. Like Q-Tip is one of my all-time favorite producers easily, and I think he's very criminally underrated in 2020. I think he was getting more of his flowers until, of course, this young generation comes around. And I mean, not to discredit them, because I mean, you know, I'm not the typical 20-some-year-old. Like I do my research.
But even talking about like lyricism and stuff, A Tribe Called Quest was up there, same with Outkast.
Sure.
But however, A Tribe Called Quest
was a monster.
They cold with it. So it's like, but for me personally, it's like once I got into doing poetry, spoken word, their instrumentals hit different for me. So it's like, you know, the music making, the producing from Q-Tip, you know, the whole thing is pretty fucking dope. I can definitely say I will listen to a way more Tribe Called Quest instrumentals for building upon as opposed to Outkast. Outkast, it's the combo pack. Their lyricism goes with their music, and that's that. It's kind of harder to try to, for myself, being someone who loves words, loves wordplay and all that, it's harder for me to try to think of a rhyme or a freestyle, a rap, or a poem to go with Outkast tracks or instrumentals because we're not used to hearing them. With A Tribe Called Quest, it's like they openly have a whole, you know, CDs or two, you know, tapes and stuff where it's like, it's just instrumentals.
Right.
It's just the
Tip is that type of producer where you can just like if you studying or painting,
you can vibe out and just zone in into whatever you're doing. And
it's
just
a very consistent
vibe. There's a flow going,
and then his influence, like Pharrell, Kanye, like this go on. And some of the most legendary producers have credited Tip as like their biggest direct influence.
As they should.
So, I'm hella excited about it. Like
I hope it happens.
I had told these two about it. Well, I had sent them the notes for it, and they was like hella excited. Once they seen it as well. Like,
I'm gonna still edge Outkast a little bit, but it's like I can't choose, bro.
I can't either. I can't even say like again. I would think in my head Outkast against anybody. Like I think Outkast is the greatest group of all time, but.
But we got to think about for me, Outkast. When I think about Outkast, it's like, all right, well, there's that, but it's like we got to think about the two individuals. These are both dope individuals separately, because Big Boy has his catalog that I fuck with in itself,
for sure.
And their lyricism is on point for me.
They were like the perfect match.
This is probably like the only verses that I watch through and through.
You gonna watch the 3 hours this time?
To be completely real, I'm like, I can't help it. Like, those are two monumental people for me. Outkast, like I said, grew up with. A Tribe Called Quest is something I more dove into over the last couple of years.
Right,
but it's like when it comes to Outkast, it's like the Speaker Box Love Below collection and the little compilation of the music videos and stuff. Like I will watch that every other weekend, picking up my sisters from the Valley. Like that was a memory for me, a nostalgic kind of thing. Like even the more off the wall, so the experimental songs, The Whole World, things like that. Like those are my shit. Like from the videos, when I look back at them, it's like, bruh, can we talk about the conceptual?
What was that other song where they had like it was like a music video? Everybody came out the houses or something like that.
You talking about Bombs Over Baghdad
or Ghetto Music?
Nah, it was like Dre was. It was on. Matter of fact, they used it in How High when they was studying this shit. Where he was like, nah, 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 nah.
Oh, yeah,
that is Bombs Over Baghdad,
That shit.
And I still
was different.
And the way they switched it up so many times, like with the video, Patti LaBelle being in it, like
Bombs
they did their shit.
Probably win the verses.
But I feel like that whole album though, like of just the mix. Yeah, Stankonia is one of my favorites.
I don't think they have a bad album.
They don't.
And
they have well over like what happened? 6, 7?
At least
hard
albums at least.
ATLN, Aquemini, Stankonia.
Speaker
Box Love Below as one album. Then they got.
And then if I count that out, so
it's like 5, 6.
Yeah.
My last question on this: do y'all think Andre 3000 is gonna show up?
No.
I'm not that's debatable, but I highly doubt it. Like, I would love to see him, but it's.
I think if he shows up, that is gonna break the Instagram Live record. I think that's well over
it's
a
funny
million.
how like him and Erykah Badu have a kid together. They're very similar in the sense of like being very sporadic and being seen.
Right.
At least nowadays, like y'all are greats, yet y'all the most spotty motherfuckers around right now when it comes to appearances.
You seen that video when he was at when Drake 3000 was at the Grove, and he was like, he had, I think he had a mask on at some point, but he was like playing the flute, and somebody caught him, and like it went viral like everywhere. Like everybody was so happy just at the fact that there was an appearance of this nigga at some random ball in LA. Like it just shows his impact
of playing the flute.
And then for me, it's like even when he had his little animated show on Cartoon Network, being the like teacher and stuff, the music teacher, it's like little things like that. Like I remember nuances from. I love Andre 3000. Like he's
who don't. If you don't like, I'll probably
like,
I look at you kind of funny. Like
everything.
I think him and Sade is like two people where it's like if you don't like them, like if you don't know about them, that's cool. But if you don't like them, like I look at you kind of funny.
Wrong?
Yeah.
Like, what you go through?
True. Don't get me started on them young girls. I was picking Jhene, Aiko over Sade, but
What?
That's a subject for a different.
I mean,
be glad I didn't see that.
I mean, if I play the devil's advocate, I can see the idea of that, but they don't. If they don't know, they don't know.
Well, they young.
If they young, they don't know. They don't know.
That is
but think about it.
Like,
outside of black culture, nobody's gonna be listening to Jhene Aiko and be like, oh well. Oh, Sade is like somebody that I also listen. Like that's not a common thing. It's usually exclusively that, and then derivatives of that from common time. But they're not gonna know shit about Sade or nothing like that because that's not their time.
Your parents have failed you.
But they might not. But think about it. Outside of white culture, Jhene Aiko has sparked and connected with outside of black culture over the years, being more modern. Think about it. From social media to outside of that, she's appealed to different groups. In this time period, I can see people not seeing who Sade is. Playing the devil's advocate, seeing time periods. If they don't know, they don't know.
Some black households that might not know.
That's like.
I mean, but you're talking black households. I'm talking a general scope of Jhene Aiko spans plenty of people.
Well, I mean, Sade starts outside of the black community before she gets to us.
But think about the time period. If you're talking to people in my age group or younger, which is already 5 years or so younger than you. You're not gonna know. I know who Sade is. Cool.
I bet you they know who Stevie Wonder is. Because when you're in a certain atmosphere of iconic.
But think about it. Stevie Wonder has more hits that will be played at weddings, that will be played at events. In some ways that they'll recognize. Sade is probably, I feel like for younger people, Sade is somebody who they know the songs but don't know who exactly sings.
That's fair.
So it's like, for Stevie Wonder, they know.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
So give it a break in that sense of like, it's a time period thing. Everything's
That's like me with Prince though. Like Prince got a gang of classic songs that even to this day, sometimes I'll hear and I'll be like, I did not know that was Prince, but I know this song. Like that's an iconic song that you hear everywhere, but I had no idea that was Prince. So yeah, I kind of understand that at that point. All right, now that we ripped each other's heads off on these music topics, let's get into our AGM conclusion dialogue for the day. Kind of similar to a couple of our topics today of very cliche one of us, should we leave the hood once we become successful or reach a certain point? Should we help from a distance, or should we be there and be grounded? I know it's a very controversial topic. But what's your take on that?
I mean, you got a different. For me, being somebody who looks at various different perspectives, I can see different points of it. For somebody who may not have not only the passion, they may not have the passion, the drive, the consistency, nor the work ethic to maybe contribute to a community or help out their community. Mm-hmm. However, there's other people where it's like that's part of what is motivating them to come up is to be able to come back and help their people grow. People like Nipsey and others where it's like, all right, well, I'm going to come back and we're going to build up our area because the rest of it's getting gentrified. The rest of it's getting lost. The rest of it's dying off because of different situations. But ultimately, for me personally, if I was to look at it in my shoes, I don't have a hood to go back to. I'm not coming back to Lancaster.
Well, maybe not.
But I understand. I can understand the idea behind it. You're asking if it's right or wrong.
Well, I'm asking if you and I hate to use him as an example, but with Nipsey, he said that I'm not going to go to Beverly Hills or Calabasas and put a Marathon store there. I'm going to put a Marathon store on Crenshaw and Slauson in an alleyway that anybody who knows that area, that is not somewhere to just kick it at. But I'm going to have Russell Westbrook and Big Boy and 21 Savage and all these millionaires come here right in the heart of our hood, and I'm going to buy this strip that the police were investigating me for just on the merit of this being that type of area. So do you think that and I hate to use him as the example, but just to kind
that's
of
the most
help
prominent one
understand.
right now.
Do you think Nip should have just helped from a distance and had somebody else there, or do you think he was he did it his way and how he did it was most impactful?
I mean, personally, I feel like, and this is only my opinion I can speak for, I feel like he did it how he felt necessary for his people. And we see the impact in it today, even post-passing, even before his passing. We have seen the impact of being able to normalize the fact that let's not forget that these are regular individuals. Just because they got money, just because they got attention, doesn't mean that they're not still the same motherfuckers who came from the hood just like y'all did. It also, for me, it gives a sense of giving other people hope that they can get out of their current situation, but also shows that they're not being too bougie or whatever. To each his own for anybody who wants to just forget about that part of their life. But I'm all about understanding, helping people who were there throughout your struggle, because don't just come when I'm up and up and I'm on the better swing of things, as opposed to not knowing how it was when I struggled to work my ass off to get to where I can even be in this situation and help out people who were where I was when I started.
Let me combat that though, because I think personally, I think Nipsey was more valuable being here on Earth for our community than him being gone right now. Even though yes, his music had went to another level and more people know about him, but I still think he has so much more work that he wanted to do and so much more to give. And I feel like our community was robbed abruptly because of that. So I mean, do you really feel that?
I agree. No, but listen.
Feel like, you know, I mean, I get it. Like, he did it his way of what he felt was right. But I mean, clearly he didn't probably anticipate that because he was lacking the day it happened.
And that's kind of one of those things that comes with the territory too, is that sometimes those days are gonna come up. But as far as him not doing the best thing as far as being beneficial to our community by staying close to home, I kind of disagree in that sense, because it would be the same idea as, you know, the mainstream idea of like, okay, you get big, you forget where you come from.
Right.
He didn't. He chose to come back and not only remember where he came from, but to help build up where he came from.
He was literally helping somebody today.
And it's like, for me, it's like, to me, I feel like that is very admirable. Could I say I would do it myself? Absolutely not. I wouldn't do a lot of things most people would do for themselves and for our community.
So you're on the side of like, he did it his way.
He did it his way. I respect that. I understand that. I do see where you're coming from and him being more valuable, not being so close to home. However, if he didn't do what he did, he wouldn't have impacted the groups of people that he did.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not like taking a side as far as like, yeah, he should have went somewhere else. Honestly, when it comes to that specifically, I just think he should have been more on point at that moment. If you call somebody a snitch, you should not be comfortable enough to just, you know what I'm saying? And I think his team, the people that were around him, I think they should have been more on guard with that just happened. Or they should have been the one to kind of police that particular situation instead of having Nip dip his hand in hood politics still at that time.
That's where his people. I'm not saying he was not saying he wasn't lacking, because he was lacking in the sense of he got comfortable in his position.
His awareness, I think, was
awareness was lacking. Like, so it's like not only his awareness, everybody around him, everybody got comfortable with the idea that he was in a space to where he was, in theory, untouchable in certain situations. So it's like, here he is back home where he's not untouchable. He done said some shit that's controversial. You're not on your P's and Q's because you used to not be untouchable. Right. So it's like, then something comes up, somebody plotting on your downfall, comes for you, whatever the thing transpires. Right. But it's like, I feel like it's the matter of adapting to the fact that, oh, well, people look highly upon me. People aren't going to do that. Or I'm in this space, so it's like, I don't got nothing to worry about. But people forgetting, like, in every situation, you need to be on your P's and Q's, whether it's successful or not. If you know people are more so plotting on your downfall, or nothing to lose, but it's like people plot on your downfall. If you're doing good or comfortable in your skin, people are mad. So it's like, he needs to be on his... I can't speak on what that's wrong. I can't speak on what he needs to do or what he needed to not do, because I wasn't in this situation. I don't know the background behind it through and through. I only know what I've heard. Right. But ultimately, I can see where it's like, yeah, he was caught lacking because you got comfortable, as far as I see it.
Yeah. For myself, I'm not one of the people that like feel that it's the responsibility of any one individual or any like individual that's quote unquote made it to come back and help the hood if that's not in their heart to do. Like I guess Michael Jordan is like a good example. Catch a lot of flack, be helping the black community. But it's like, if that's never been his platform, never been in his heart, he never spoke on it, I don't see why we're looking for him to do that. Because other demographics don't, I don't think they hold their...
You know how much context is around what you just said.
I'm just saying. I don't feel like other demographics go as hard on their... on their celebrities to come back, they probably don't have nothing to come back to. I'm just saying, it's not the same.
But
and I feel like I feel like as black people, we shouldn't expect that because we should do ourselves. But on that subject, if you do decide to come back and help the hood, you have to understand the environment that you're coming back to. And, as complex as people are, that's as complex as the solutions to those issues are going to be. So, in Nipsey's situations, we're talking about him, obviously he knows what it's like in the hood.
For sure.
And, you always want to, especially like having that connection to your people, you always want to have that connection to your people. But there is like a certain point where you have to realize, like, I don't want to say ascended past it, but you do ascend past the hood mentality, and as far as like the rooms that you're stepping in, the type of business moves you're making, type of business partners that you're bringing on, and just the type of people that you find yourself associating with. So there has to come a point where it's like, all right, in order for this part of the hood to grow, or in order for me, like what I'm doing in the hood to grow further, I have to either put like a base here where niggas that I know are in the hood and gonna stay in the hood to, put them in place to do what they got to do to improve the conditions while I'm off over here, getting this and getting that and, selling all this stuff so I could filter it back to them and they could, help them. It's a very fine line to walk, but I think it got to be a combination of both. Then you got to understand how violent your environment is too and how vulnerable you are, because, if you out in the hood and you don't got if all your security is your homies and y'all just out in the hood chilling and everybody just relaxing, how niggas get when we relax and chill, ain't nobody paying attention.
No, nobody's on their P's and Q's.
Right, so it's a bad situation. So you gotta understand your life is very valuable, not just to yourself and your family on top of it. Like your responsibility at the end of the day as a man is to your family first and foremost. So it's like I can't help the hood in jeopardy and put my family in jeopardy. Right. And if they
need you too.
Right, so it's like it's a cold situation, but I think feel like both is important.
Sorry to cut you off. I feel like part of the problem too is that like for our community, people who make it, people who are successful are looked at as outliers. People who are above the ordinary, which I can see. However, it's like if we can break out of that, which isn't gonna happen overnight, ain't gonna happen in 2 years. But over time, if we look at ourselves as having greater potential from the jump, then we won't look at these individuals here and there, rappers, athletes, as outliers and being the people who have it all on their back to pull the rest of our community out from hardship. That's kind of fucked up in a sense, because it's like, that's not on them. They have their own life. They're human as well. They're one person. So they're doing what they need to do for not only their mental health, their sanity, but who they are as their one life as this person, whether it's an athlete or whatever, rapper, whatever. But it's like, I don't feel, with me saying that I understand and appreciate people who do, like Nipsey Hussle, who do come back and help their community. I understand where they're coming from. If it's not in your heart, same with myself, I wouldn't do it because it's not in my heart.
Well, my question was more so to the people that do. It wasn't like a should they come back and help at all. It was like for the people that do, basically, how should they navigate that?
That's fair.
Is what I was more so, getting at.
And I guess I'm more
and I think, speaking to your point about like realizing who you are, I always felt like that was Nipsey's issue, because I've been a Nipsey fan since like high school. You know what I mean? A lot of people just started like really getting into him, but I've been following Nip the last 10 years. And I was more so worried about something like this happening back in like 2011, 2012, because he was really like, you know, just not kind of, you know, I mean, and it's kind of a good trait, but I don't think he ever fully took it in. Like, yes, nigga, I'm a celebrity. Like, I'm above y'all. You know what I mean? And it's like he kept rising and rising and rising, and he still wasn't. I don't think he was fully taking it in, like who he was. Like, nigga, at some point in time, you started shaking hands with Jay-Z. You started, you like, even when he passed away, you notice any legend or anybody a part of our culture, if you looked at their Instagram, they all addressed this in some type of way. This impacted everybody in some type of way. So for you to have this type of influence, this type of impact, this type of power, and you still around all these niggas, like we said earlier, like have nothing to lose. I don't think he ever fully like took that in. And for that reason, you know, I guess my assessment on that is like, I agree completely with what he did. I just felt like he should have been more on point doing it. Like, it shouldn't be normalized for you to go somewhere like that and just tell your security, nah, it's cool. You ain't gotta come with me. Like, can you imagine? I'm not saying he was on this level, but can you imagine like Jay-Z or Nas, like, you know, going back to their projects and just being like, oh no, y'all cool, like it's not even realistic.
Facts,
you know what I mean? And maybe again, I think he just didn't look at himself, you know, in that light. And again, it's a great trait and quality to have. It's another sense of humility, but it ultimately, you know, again, I feel like he was needed here, you know what I'm saying, more than what we've seen since he left. And his family, right? Like, and you know, I'm like, if we feel the way we feel, I can imagine, like, you know, how his kids feel, how they're gonna feel, how his family's, you know, gonna feel going forth. The people who are in his day-to-day life, like all the people that were, you know, dependent on him and his influence. Sorry about that. Going forth. So yeah, I just, you know, where I stand is, I think, like, you know, I don't think he was wrong for the way he went about it. And any rapper that decides to go back, I just think you have to be more conscientious of the way that you go about it when you do it.
Understand, like, even when you're coming back, meaning to do good and with love, not everybody looking at you like that.
Right, and I mean, in his, you know, his position specifically, you definitely shouldn't be stealing. You definitely shouldn't be still, you know, politicking y'all situations, and you got people around you who can do that. You know, and you know, I mean, is there anything else you want to add to it? Or?
I mean, nah, not really. Like, I mean, for me personally, I don't know if y'all are aware of, and I've been using this word a lot, but I don't know if you guys are aware of the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. But I had to read that in school in one of my classes. And I don't know, just gave me a different perspective of things, like the idea of people outside of the norm. Us as Black people, we highly celebrate people who are outside of the norm, but we don't look at that as the fact that can be our normal. For white people, it's like, okay, it's a normal. For Asian people, it's a normal. For academics or whatever, stereotype or not, it's a norm. For us, that's not a norm. And I feel like once we get past that, acknowledging the fact that we can make a difference in different ways, whether it's socially impacting, academically impacting, politically impacting, it's the matter of having the intelligence or the information or the knowledge to be able to dive into these different areas as opposed to being so secluded to certain things. We shouldn't be put in a box. That's my takeaway from it, is that we shouldn't be put in a box. Like, Nipsey was an outlier in the sense of, and he didn't realize it, which was part of the problem.
Exactly.
He was an outlier and didn't even know it, which is part of what led to his demise, because he wasn't on his P's and Q's. He didn't look at himself as an outlier, which is almost more admirable in the sense of, like, great, you're still looking at yourself as being in the same realm as where you came from. Like, you didn't change much, which is absolutely what's looked at as honorable. But ultimately, it did lead to his demise. And ultimately, that plays a part in the fact that it's not a norm for us to be it's a norm for outliers, not a norm for outliers to be our usual.
Right, exactly.
And that's where we need to change things for outliers to be our normal. And once we get there, I feel like that's a very good start to helping other aspects of things.
For sure. All right, well, yeah, I think it's perfect way to close, man. Again, appreciate y'all. You know, everybody that's tuning in, everybody that's giving us the feedback. Continue to
keep it coming.
Yeah,
keep it
sure,
coming. Comment on stuff.
Yeah, and I'll keep even if you send it to me or one of these two or on our official page, the AGM podcast. I'll have everything on the bottom of this. But just contact any of us. Continue to give feedback. Make sure y'all comment. Again, allgrindmedia21@gmail. If there's any topics that y'all feel we should stay on top of, or anything that you want us to bring up historically, whatever the case may be, just let us know, man, and we'll make sure to implement it in some kind of way. We have a lot coming in store, man, and we'll keep y'all posted. But like I said, for now, thank you for the feedback, man. Appreciate y'all tuning in, and peace.
Thank you.
Peace.